Darryl Hurs is the founder of Indie Week in Toronto, the music conference, as well as the managing director of Downtown Global. He's absolutely fascinating talking about music marketing, but also the future of conference. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy my conversation with Darryl Hurs. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. Today, I'm speaking with a Canadian legend and maybe a worldwide legend in the music industry. Darryl Hurs has founded Indie Week, is the managing director of Downtown Global. He has created online conference. In the previous life, he worked with U2, Madonna, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Dave Matthews. We're on for a good ride in terms of music, marketing, and engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, Darryl Hurs.
Hello. Thank you for having me here. I'm very excited.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. You joining me from Toronto?
Yes, Toronto, Canada.
Awesome. I have a lot of friends there. It seems to be a nest of entrepreneurs for whatever reason there. It's fascinating. Did you always live there?
I grew up in Edmonton, and when I reached a certain age, I knew Toronto was basically where the music industry was for Canada. So I moved here looking for exactly what I'm doing now.
So that's from a young age, what you always wanted to do?
Yeah, basically from grade 6, I knew I wanted to do something in the music business.
So what is your story to get to all those things you've been doing that even when we were discussing, I thought you must have a twin brothers to be able to achieve all those different ventures that you have. What's your story?
It's long, it's pretty crazy, but I knew I wanted to be in music. I first wanted to be a musician, as most people do. I did guitar. I studied guitar at Grant MacEwan College in Edmonton, went in bands, and eventually one band was going to move to Toronto, which we did. But the band broke up quickly. They all moved back to Edmonton. So I was in Toronto by myself and I knew no one. So I started networking, volunteering, hustling, playing, auditioning, and started basically carving out my own sort of career in that I started becoming a booker for a venue. I started managing other bands. When I was in a band, I was the one doing the promotion, the bookings, the business of it. And then at one point I was, there isn't a festival in Toronto that really focuses on local artists that should be. So that's where I created Indie Week. And during that time, actually just prior to that, I took a quick desktop publishing course and I became basically self-employed doing graphics and design. And I was early days of website building. And I managed to land Live Nation as a client for about 8-9 years. During that time, I launched VIPnation.com for them. And I also rebranded the company, did the logo design and branding, and did a lot of event marketing assets and advertising with someone with the artists that you named. And through that, I gained a lot of experience on, how do you market? How do you promote events? Mm-hmm. How do you engage fans? And then I started elevating Indie Week, where we actually were doing Indie Week in Ireland. And then we moved from Ireland to UK. So I was actually doing Canada and those areas. COVID hit and we basically lost everything. Couldn't do a live in person. And one part of Indie Week to note is that it was music festival, showcase festival, but also a music conference during the day. So during COVID, we did the change to say we're going to do conferencing online because that's doable. And through that, we've actually launched 3 other conferences online: Music Pro Summit, Screen by Screen, and Indie 101. So now we're doing 4 conferences, and it's actually been very successful. And we're at a place where we're probably on par, if not better, than when COVID started. So
really, wow! Congratulations.
We went to nothing to now we're back and we're actually doing better. We do 4 online conferences. We've done mentorships. We do a weekly free session every Tuesday. We're in the process of launching an export music program. And we're in the process of building an online community that will be sort of like a Facebook, but for music people, industry, musicians, fans, and the like. So we'll have kind of like our own Facebook, but for the music industry.
So
And
you
it's
didn't
crazy.
buy 9.82% of MySpace, right?
No. But and then on top of that, the last 3 years, I was the country rep for CD Baby in Canada, and just received a promotion at the end of last year, where now I'm managing director for Canada for Downtown and managing their brands here.
Now, I'm the perfect person that you need to talk to, because if I know something or if I understand something, everybody can understand it. So you've mentioned Indie Week, you've mentioned Downtown. Can you take us back just before COVID? What was Indie Week? What were you doing in Toronto, but also in the UK or in Ireland, as you mentioned? And what is the principle of that conference? Because obviously that interests a lot of the audience here.
Sure. So Indie Week in Toronto, we were doing about 240 bands from around the world.
Wow.
Over 4 nights. I think we were at 24 music venues downtown Toronto. And prior to that, we were doing UK. We actually stopped when Brexit was coming, because it's so many.
Yeah.
Like, can you bring bands without visas or not, and all that. So we just avoided that. So we had just stopped doing UK. But the whole point was that we would get industry out to look at the bands, and there's a sort of a voting process of who's the best band that deserves to go to UK. So we would actually take the band to UK, and then they would play Indie Week in UK. And at Indie Week UK, we would pick a band and bring them to Canada. And we thought that was a great opportunity for any indie artist going into a new market. It also helps elevate their career, but their profile, make connections, and so forth. Yeah. What we've been doing over the last, I guess, 4 years now, COVID's made it weird, but we've partnered with a festival in Brazil called Coma Fest. So we've been taking an artist there every year, and we're going to be taking a few artists this year in August. And so our objective now is really looking internationally in partnerships that we've been able to build online during this time, and now trying to be able to take artists there. So instead of us running another Indie Week in a different country, we're partnering with an already existing festival and being able to place artists there. And another one is VMF in Peru, where we've partnered with them, and we have artists that we're taking there this year as well.
Awesome. Are you going to go back to face-to-face for Indie Week in Toronto?
Our plan right now is to stay online as a conference, where there's still stuff going on with COVID. And the one thing that has really set us apart from all the other conferences is that when COVID lockdowns are happening and we decided to do the conference online, we were 110% invested in doing online. If we're doing online, we're full on in. Where we've seen a lot of other conferences do it only because they had to, and they're hoping to be in person. And they would schedule something in person, then have to change the dates because of COVID. And then when it got to that date, then they had to go online, and they weren't, like, it wasn't their initial plan. And I felt it kind of came across that way. And they're still trying to go live. We're doing the best job we can online, and we've had nothing but praise and positive feedback. People are making connections, making clients, collaborating. I mentioned how one artist met a company in Brazil and is launching NFTs through a company in Brazil because they met online. There's so many stories of what's happened as a result that we feel it's a very positive experience. And we're able to actually get higher level speakers because we don't have to fly them. They don't have to invest 4 days. We've had the global head of music for Roblox. We've had Museo, Mideo, all like top AI companies, which is very current right now. So we've been able to actually have higher level speakers. So we're very excited about it, and we're invested in it.
Awesome. Darryl, can you take us through the experience of that conference, and who is it targeted to? So I guess the image I have in my head when you talk about Indie Week in Toronto is you're going from one place to another, one venue to another, listening to different bands. Here, during that online conference? Is it for people like me that were attending Indie Week, or is it specifically for independent artists, promoters, venue manager? What is it exactly?
So this is a great question, right? And this is why we actually have 4 conferences online now. When we were running a conference in person, we take over a hotel and there's many different rooms, different topics happening at the same time, and you can't recreate that experience online. So what we did is take the conference and broken it down into different demographics. So Screen by Screen happens in February now every year. That's music and tech. So AI, VR, blockchain, crypto, metaverse. That's what Screen by Screen is. Indie 101 coming up in May is education. How do you release music? How do you do publishing? How do you collect royalties? So it's how to do marketing. And then Music Pro Summit in September is high-level industry discussions like strategy, how to use data, how do you gain fan engagement. And then Indie Week is our hub. So we try to collectively bring all of that together under one roof, as you would say, but a big focus on international connections. So there's a kind of like this really cool common thread throughout the year, but we're actually able to really hone in and focus on that particular demographic for each of the conferences. And like I said, it's been nothing but positive feedback. And a lot of people have been just saying that we've been one of the best online conferences they've attended. And the platform we use really is open to engagement, connecting with others, talking. All our content is on for 3 months. So if you can't make a session, it's recorded. It's still there. And people talk online for 3 months. It's hilarious. I'll log in and it's like, wow, there's like 259 new messages since the last time I logged in. And
wow,
it's a month after the conference. And what that means is any attendee can still go through the speaker list and attendee list and email them, message them. There's a section where you can create your own meetup and meeting. You could be 2 months after the conference and go, hey, want to meet? I'd love to pick your brain about how you're working with NFTs right now. And so that's the thing that can't happen in real life. And that's been the magic.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What is the platform?
The platform's called Whova, WHOVA. And it's been great.
Yeah, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Chris Krimitsos, who created Podfest, used that, I want to say already 2 years ago.
Possibly, yeah, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, but the number of meetup that you can create there, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Absolutely.
It's been amazing to watch. And what we've seen, and you have to remember, COVID hit, we had never done this before. So we have to learn as we go. And people are like, what do you think is going to happen? I don't know. Never done it before. How many people? Again, we've never done it online before. Our numbers continually grow each conference. And the other part is we're able to actually get real data. So we know the number of messages that have been sent, the connections, the meetups. Yeah, it's been insane because it's continuing to grow. So the engagement is there. And what that means is we've got a core group of people that come to each one and they're learning the platform and they're now more kind of like experts at using it. So they were learning with us, but now they really know how to use it and they're really taking advantage of that.
Now, with all the data you have, because any person who wants to create a community, the question is always, what do people like? What do they see? What are the topics that are interesting them? And now you have all this data. How do you transition from having those conferences, having this data, and create it really a 365 days per year community, which is active in your industry?
Well, for us, what's really been helpful is we do our free weekly session, and we really focus on being real, where I think a lot of people are trying to put on this perfect show, this presentation, and they're worried about the graphics and they're worried about the look, when really people just want to connect. And while they've been remote and while they've been isolated, they've really wanted connection. And that's part of the biggest feedback, especially with our weekly. Some artists are like, I look forward to this. This is my thing every week now that I have to attend. And like we just did one yesterday, and I'll get emails. Oh, I couldn't make it. Is there a link? I'm so, and they're apologizing. Like, I'm so sorry I couldn't make it. I'm like, it's okay. It's life. And, but it's just great to see. And I think that the part of it is you have to offer value that helps. And I really am a strong believer that help first and stuff will happen. And I think so many times people are worried about the details, that they don't take a step forward. They're worried about, if I do this, will this happen? And I'm like, well, I know when you do nothing will happen.
Yes.
So do something.
I love it. That's exactly what happened with my podcast here, The Business of Meetings, because people ask me, so what is the monetization model? I say, I have no idea. I'm just enjoying meeting people, asking questions, sharing content. And in the meantime, you look long-term, something would have to happen, obviously. But it's just the serendipity, something's going to happen.
Absolutely. Well, there's a phenomenon called Wordle happening on online.
I said I was not going to go there, but I got pressure from my kids. Yes.
Yeah. So it's just this simple, stupid game. What word is this? And you got 5 or 6 tries. Sold to New York Times. Why? Because enough people are engaging with it. That's creating data, right? And that's the thing, is you do something that engages with people, it becomes valuable, right? And a phrase we've been using for the last 2 years is people add value. And that I've stolen from Tim O'Reilly of O'Reilly Press, and it's about website stuff, but people add value. And if you think of it, social media, do you pay to use Facebook? No. Okay. Why do you go to Facebook? Because people are there. Well, what if people weren't there? It would be a white page with a blue bar and a blue logo and a little sign up field, and that's it. What does Twitter look like without people? A blue bar, a logo, and a sign up. LinkedIn, a blue bar, a logo, and a sign. I wonder about this blue and white color scheme. But all of it, YouTube, eBay, it's because people are there. It's become valuable. Yeah. But there's no cost, there's no barrier to entry to get people there. So that's the thing, is a lot of times the monetization kind of comes later. But focus on people first and helping.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Now, you've been amazingly creative and very successful. Good for you with COVID. Moving forward, we haven't talked about it yet. I'm sure you're going to tell me that that online element is going to remain, I believe. But how do you see the mix between online conference as you have now and face-to-face event like you had with Indie Week?
You're right. We are planning to stay online because it's working so well for us. We are talking about how can we utilize that and do something in person when it makes sense. And that's where also I think data is going to play a big role. Now, maybe we're not restricted in, it has to be in the same city every year. Maybe the data will say, hey, there's enough people in this other city, in this other country, that we could do a one-off event and it could be really successful because the amount of people we know are engaged from that area.
Yeah.
So it's actually opening up a lot of possibilities. We've been working at partnering with international conferences and festivals while we're all online. We've been able to present showcases online at other conferences in like Taiwan, Brazil, multiple ones in Brazil, Peru, Spain, Portugal, you name it. Like I could go on. And we couldn't do that before because you'd have to pay for flights, hotels, meals, and all that. So we're able to do much more. And what we're hoping for is it really the participants, it leads to them making connections that turns into real business. And that's really our goal. And that could be an artist performing in Brazil. In fact, an artist is performing in Bangkok next month as a result from a meeting that took place at Indie Week last year,
Really?
in November. Yeah.
How that happen?
So we do these breakout rooms and call it like person to person. And people are able to talk just like how you and I are. And then in 5 minutes, they jump to a different room and they get to talk to a whole number of festival programmers. And through one of the meetings, they have a show in Bangkok coming up. And it's all paid, flights, hotels, and everything.
Amazing.
So it works. It works. And again, at the start, we're like, don't know if it will work. We're going with it. And we have to go on faith because that's what we have, right? And now, one of the things that I feel very lucky about is that we did decide to do 4 conferences in a year. So the experience that we gained, where other conferences are one time a year, it's like we got 4 years of experience in one.
Yeah.
And so now what we know, we're actually exponentially growing because we kind of know the details and the data.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm still going to go back to the face-to-face part. If you go to Tomorrowland in Belgium, for instance, or if you go to Coachella, that experience, you cannot have it online.
It's definitely different, right? And that's the thing is, I think where people make mistakes is they go, I'm going to try to recreate this online, where we're going, no, this is the online experience and this is how to make the most out of it.
Brilliant.
And we're not trying to do what we normally do in person. Where I think, again, that's our experience of doing 4 in 1 year, learning, okay, that worked, that didn't work. Where I think a lot of people are just trying to still do what they do in person, but do it online. And it's kind of failing in certain areas because it doesn't feel right.
You're absolutely right. And that's the experience I have seen with trade show. Trade show that try to do online and different format, whether you have an avatar, whether you're online, whatever, it's not the same experience because I think people try to recreate, which speaks volume to the importance of going face-to-face with trade show, but doing something different when you're online.
That's it. Know the platform, know the media. And, it's like saying, CD versus cassette, but I'm really going to try to make the cassette sound like a CD, which I'm first was hoping to make it sound like an album and such. Like they're all different formats. And that's the key is online is very much different than in person, but utilize the positives and really capitalize on that.
So when I look at new technology and I hear what you're saying, can we envision in the future Bono and U2 performing on 10 different stages worldwide at the same time with the holograms or things like that?
Absolutely. And it could probably happen next year.
Really?
It's absolutely. Maybe not next year. I'm probably pushing the envelope there, but it's definitely in the works. I think it's going to be even bigger than that. I think it could be Elvis. And I think you'd be able to have the choice on, do you want to see gospel Elvis, country Elvis, rock and roll Elvis? Yeah. And if we go really a step further with AI, Elvis could release a new CD anytime or new music anytime, because the way the voice imprints are now and AI being able to do songwriting and production, we could have new music from Elvis, which is why I believe all these music catalogs are being purchased so that the company owns the voice imprint, the visual of the artist, and they can now recreate and create new music.
Amazing. So in a few years, we'll be listening to a concert of Elvis on Mars with Elon Musk.
There we go. Yes, absolutely. But yeah, I really do believe that the future is almost anything that we can think of. especially like there's some great companies, Audio Shake is one, where they can take a recording and then break it out into all the stems. So a song that is on a cassette could now be digitally broken into all the stems. So you could be like, I'm going to use that drum part in my song. And so that's where you start thinking like, okay, what was Elvis songs before? Let's break down each part. The the AI program can then isolate, say, the guitar for all songs and go, oh, what would the guitarist do in this new song?
Huh.
And basically all the instruments and everything like that. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're a very busy person, so I still want to ask two questions if we can for today, but it's fascinating listening to you. My first one is, what about the artist and the marketing? Because in the past, Sony Music was one of my customer when I had my corporate event agency in Brussels. And it was the artist releasing the new CD at that time, doing some concert, doing some promo. What is the future of music marketing now for artists today? What's in front of them?
It's actually, to me, I think it's the best time to be an artist because they have the same tools that the major labels do. There's no barrier. Before it was like, we need a label to do this work. Mm-hmm. Now you can do this work. And the biggest part is realize everybody is online. So that's global. And I know like Facebook has 2.9 billion users. That's a lot of people. You don't need all of them, but you only need a fraction of them. And by being sort of pushed into this digital space, a lot of everyday fan is now online, and they're now more digital than ever before. So artists need to plug into what social marketing is, what is Facebook ads, what's Instagram ads, how do I use that data to know what geographic location is where my audience is, where the most, what areas where people are tuning in the most. Let's feed different ads to that market that start promoting in a different sense. And you kind of have to do ad one, ad two, and kind of just sort of build the story. But the ads can do the work for you. And you don't have to spend a ton of money on it. Mm-hmm. And there's other types of ads that can get you on, say, Billboard, magazine site, Live Nation, newsletter, and stuff like that. A program called Foundy, for instance. And through that, you can be sleeping and your audience is building because the ads are doing the work for you. And so there's an artist that I used to work with, and he won't book a tour until he sees X number of cities in a geographic location that he knows he'll sell out because of the data.
Wow.
And he won't release music until he's going to tour. So the music starts promoting the tour that he knows is going to sell out, and the tour promotes the music that's just released. And so there's no stress. Like there is some stress, but it's not like before. And, I just was on his page, and he had just launched a German tour, and the poster he posted, I think a week ago, is it's all sold out.
But the stress is probably on the major label now.
I think what the stress is that the way we did business a few years ago has changed. And I think a lot of the companies haven't caught up to the new business models. I think there's a lot of companies that are trying to do what we used to do. And I think there's a lot of scrambling going on, trying to figure out what's the future. And as we know, history tells us that things progress faster each year. So what took 5 years now may take 1 year. And so I literally had this talk yesterday. It's April 13th. April 13th last year, what did you know about NFTs?
About what?
NFTs.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Right? So see what happened in 12 months in just that one category. But there's all these different categories moving. And I think we're suffering from just information overload. There's too many things. oh my God. And I think that that's starting to be a mental health issue in our business.
Yeah.
But with artists, focus on what you do, how to use the tools to elevate what you do, focus on where your audience is. With it being digital, you could find it anywhere in the world online.
Mm-hmm.
To try to get 1,000 people that are engaged fans is easier than ever before. And I look at it like, can you turn those 1,000 fans, and I'm going to use easy math, can you turn those 1,000 fans into members of a fan club? Can you turn it into some sort of monthly revenue? Imagine if they just paid $10 a month, right? That's 10,000 a month.
Yeah.
That's 120,000 a year.
Yep.
Which artist before COVID was making $120,000 a year playing shows in their local hometown? So there is a positive here. And I think there's a way to build to that. And I don't think there's too many barriers.
And I think I'm talking to the right person to explain that. So thank you so much. It's fascinating. Darryl, if I may, my last question, obviously for the meetings and event industry. I've been always passionate by face-to-face. When it comes to negotiation, there is nothing better for me than face-to-face or explaining something. You see how the people react. The serendipity of walking into a conference hall, meeting somebody, having a conversation that lead to another one, introduction. I've never been to a trade show where I haven't learned something that is impacting my business. Now, added to that is the online part. Is everything we've been developing the last 2 years, is the community aspect. What is your advice for independent business owners in the meetings and event industry and for people working in the meetings and event industry when it comes to audience engagement at conference to make sure that people want to come and still want to, and there's a choice of travel, of cost. What is your recommendation for people in terms of making their conference sexy?
Are you talking about in person still?
Yes.
Or
Yes. In person and using as well, maybe in between the online part, but primarily we start from the hypothesis that we want to come face to face at one moment during the year.
Well, it was interesting. I was just at South by Southwest in Austin, and the vibe was totally different. Just simply we're coming out of lockdowns, coming out of COVID. I felt that there was less talks about business. There was more talks about meeting and learning about the other person. It was the business talks were less, but it was more about how are you? What's going on? And so I think that digital has brought the walls down, where it used to be sort of like everybody had their sort of shell on, I'm in business mode, I'm this guy that does this work, and where now I think it's sorry, my brain's kind of going in a few places. Like I attended a webinar session that had Robert Herjavec from Dragon's Den. So Dragon's Den is the show where you pitch, and he's sitting there going, look, you're in my living room. That would have never happened. I'm in my shorts. I would have been in a suit. So I think these personas have kind of been dropped, and now it's more just real people. And I think that creating events that really captivates that realism, and I think that makes it feel like you've got a stronger connection because we're now friends, not just maybe doing business. Mm-hmm. I think that that's going to be huge. And I think taking that as well, the hybrid models, I think are going to be important as well, because we've learned that there is audience out there that no matter what wouldn't come in person, but we don't want to exclude them either. And we've been having feedback as we've always wanted to come to Indie Week, but we couldn't afford to fly there or take time off work. And they've literally been posting pictures on their socials of two computers. I'm still working, but I'm watching Indie Week at the same time on my laptop. And so that's a whole sector that was missed before. And then as well, there's people that have mobility issues and just wouldn't be able to show up anyways, and they're tuning in. We've also found that the age range is lower and higher. Like we've had people I've seen in the comments, I'm a 75-year-old songwriter still doing this, and they wouldn't have come to our conference before. So you don't want to exclude all those people. And again, digital is global. So you do the in-person, but how do you elevate that with online? And I think that's going to be the secret.
Awesome. Darryl, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. Fascinating conversation. And I can't wait to see the next thing you're going to develop.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and having me here.
Darryl, thank you so much for taking the time. And wow, what an amazing picture of the future you painted right now. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with me, please follow me on LinkedIn or join my Facebook group at www.eventbusinessformula.com/group. And if you enjoy this conversation, please share it with your network. Bye-bye.